Welcome to the Disney Wedding Podcast. This show is brought to you by Carrie Hayward's Fairy Tale Weddings Guide, the only guidebook and bridal organizer tailored exclusively to Disney's fairy tale weddings at Walt Disney World. I'm Carrie Hayward, and each week I feature Disney wedding updates, money-saving tips, and interviews with wedding vendors and real Disney couples. I also cover honeymoons, anniversaries, and engagements at the Disney parks and resorts. Join me now as the Disney Wedding Podcast celebrates romance at Disney destinations. Today on the Disney Wedding Podcast, I am speaking with Disney bride Tiffany Townley about her ceremony at the Wedding Pavilion, with a reception at American Adventure Rotunda in Epcot and a Fantasmic welcome party. I thought you guys would be interested to hear how she chose these locations and how she planned everything and how it all turned out. So welcome, Tiffany.
Hi, Carrie.
Thanks so much for being on the show today. I always like to start at the very beginning and find out how you and your fiancé decided that you wanted to have your wedding at Disney.
So I went to Disney a couple times as a kid, but it was when I did the Disney College program back in 2010 that my love for Disney grew tremendously. And I dreamt of a Disney wedding ever since. And then my now husband and I, we started dating, and he grew up in Florida. So Disney was in his backyard, and in his mind, Disney was overpriced hot dogs and hamburgers and like a kid's theme park. He started dating me and knew that I was crazy about Disney. And he was like, all right, I'm going to have to give this another try because this girl is crazy about Disney. And then we went on our first trip, and I showed him a very different side of the Disney world, and he fell in love with it immediately. And I think it was either that trip or the next one after that he looked at me and he said, I always want to have a Disney trip planned. And I thought to myself, I'm going to marry you.
That's awesome. So how did your friends and family react when they found out where the wedding was going to be?
I don't know that a single one of them was surprised. I am completely the Disney person in my family, in my friends groups, at work. I'm just 100% the Disney person. And Justin, as we've been together and kind of really taught him my ways of Disney, he finally realized, I think it was even after we got married, that he is also the Disney person in his group of friends that are outside of mine and at his work. He is the go-to Disney person, and he didn't realize that, and he kept passing it off like, oh yeah, you want to talk to my wife? And then one day he started just rattling off the answers for stuff, and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm one of the crazy Disney people too. And I was like, welcome to the club. So it didn't really surprise anyone. I think people were just really excited to see what Disney would be all about. A lot of our friends and family haven't really been to Disney that much. Some of them maybe not at all, where we go pretty often. So we have our favorites and things like that. So we were really excited for the opportunity to get to share the things that we love so much about Disney, and especially at Christmas time, and to be able to share that with them and make sure that they got to experience some of those things with us.
Fantastic. How many guests did you invite, and how many were able to make the trip?
I think we invited around 115 or so. We had about 65 that were able to come. So it was a good amount less. We were thinking it was going to be 85 to 90. So we were surprised, but we did have a handful that just weren't able to make the trip because of it being at Disney, but then also with the timing in early December and everyone trying to prep for the holidays. So a little bit smaller group than we expected, but it was still perfect.
And did you set up a room block for your guests?
We did a room block, and again, just trying to really keep in mind our friends and family and where their needs would be, and being so close to Christmas. So we actually chose 2 value resorts to do it at instead of doing, they kind of recommend usually a value, a moderate, and a deluxe. We just went for All-Star Movies to give one of the most affordable options for our family. And then also a room block at Pop Century, because we know our immediate family likes Pop Century a lot. And for the wedding, we were going to be getting ready and staying at the Riviera. So having family and people that were at Pop Century could easily hop on the Skyliner over to come and see us as well.
That's wonderful. How did you choose the day of the week and time of day for your event?
So we weren't too concerned with the day of the week since everyone had to travel to get there, and we knew we were going to be doing a welcome party and we were going to be doing the full day of wedding activities. So we figured people in general were going to come, probably stay an extra day or two, but we ultimately chose Sunday, December 3rd. And the reason behind that is we don't like to take life too seriously. There's enough serious stuff out there. So we figured that we would make our anniversary as easy to remember as 1, 2, 3, because it would be December 3rd. So it was important for us to just have our wedding at a certain time of year. So for us, it was really wanting to do early December, typically a little bit less crowded and a tiny bit cheaper than if you're going during the actual holidays, and would probably give the best opportunity for folks to be able to join us. And then we love Disney, but we also really love Christmas, and we love Christmas at Disney. And we really wanted to be able to share the Christmas time decorations and everything with our family and friends.
Fantastic. How did you guys choose your ceremony and reception venues?
We were pretty confident that we wanted the Wedding Pavilion right out of the gate. But when we went to one of the open houses early on, we decided pretty quickly that that was definitely where we had to be married. It was just so gorgeous on its own without any additional decoration, and just really gave that full fairy tale feeling. And then for the reception, I had dreamt of a reception in the Rotunda because it's just such a stunning space. We did debate a little bit. We had considered going after the view at the top of the Swan Reserve, because we were actually there when they were starting to debut that space. We were staying at the Swan Reserve and we saw it, got to like peek in and check it out before it was fully ready. And it was gorgeous space. You had the ability to see a lot of different fireworks and everything. But then once we confirmed that we wanted to do a Christmastime wedding, the Rotunda just has that special touch at Christmas, and the garland and the Christmas decor that's already up is just so beautiful. And then being able to step out and be right there at the fireworks for our guests and for our photos, we couldn't pass it up. And we had seen a few other people that had Christmastime weddings there, and as soon as I saw those, I knew, like, this is it.
That's awesome. Did you incorporate Christmas in your floral and decor?
Yeah, so we went, I think, more red and white for the bouquets and boutonnieres. And then for the decor, we actually decided to do like mini Christmas trees down the aisle of the Wedding Pavilion, and had a handful of those to go down the aisle. And then we were able to reuse them at the reception and actually use them as our centerpieces there as well. So we really pulled the Christmas in there, and we didn't want to take away from the existing decorations that are already up, but we felt that it complemented it perfectly.
That's wonderful. Did you use any outside vendors for the portions of your event that you were able to?
Yeah, so we used that First Moment photography. They were absolutely amazing. We clicked so quickly. If I was making phone calls trying to figure out who we were going to use, and Claire answered that phone and we started talking, and immediately I was like, she and I are just on the same page that this is it, and we have got to use them. And we had them at our welcome party and also all day for our wedding, and they were just fantastic. Like, we look back at our photos and we're showing people our photos, and the number of people that have said, like, oh my gosh, this is you guys. This looks like something out of a magazine. And they captured our day so perfectly. And I'm so glad, because everyone talks about how fast your wedding day goes. And you're like, okay, yeah, I got it. It's going to go quick. It's going to feel like it flew by. And then the day is there. And then it's gone. And it has gone so quick. So having them to really capture those moments and to be able to look back and some of the things that we didn't even see, we didn't notice and didn't know was happening, and getting to see that through the photos is just amazing. Could not recommend them enough. They made our day for sure.
Wonderful. Did you add any kind of entertainment to the reception?
We added a little bit in our own way. So not in any kind of the traditional way, but Justin and I both used to sing quite a bit. Justin a lot more than me even. I did all the stuff in high school, right? But he actually had like offers for full ride scholarships for singing and everything. And I always thought it would be really cool to record something and play it at the wedding. I have way too much stage fright to try and sing at my own wedding or any event. But we went to a local recording studio and recorded a few songs there. And Justin recorded the Brent Morgan version of Kiss the Girl for him to walk down the aisle to in the Wedding Pavilion. No one had any idea that he had sung it when they were playing it. No one had a clue. I leaned over actually when I was waiting to walk down the aisle, and in the room across the way, I heard it because the music was piped in there, and I heard him singing it. And I leaned over and I whispered to my maid of honor that I know Justin's walking down the aisle right now because this is him singing this song. And her jaw hit the floor. So he sang that one. He also recorded the mother-son dance to the Michael Bublé version of You've Got a Friend in Me. And then I recorded Daddy Dance With Me. It's a country song for the father-daughter dance. And then together we recorded At Last I See the Light from Tangled.
That's awesome. And so you just had your DJ play those?
Yeah. So our DJ played the songs. We did our first dance when we first came in, and nobody knew that it was us singing. They thought it was just a different version of it or something, and no one really caught on to it. And we had him wait until after we finished it to announce that we had recorded it, to try and catch my dad as off guard as possible with the fact that I had sung the one for him. And so it was a surprise right there at the reception that we had done all that singing and that it was actually us.
That's fantastic. Now, from the reception, do you have any menu items or cake flavors you would recommend?
I'm actually vegetarian. So for me, I had a little bit of different on the favorite things. But one of my all-time favorites is the 1900 Park Fair strawberry soup. It's always just so delicious. And it has a little bit of like an emotional tie for me. So my grandma that passed many years ago, when I was back in high school, I think it was, or early college maybe, I had gotten a hold of that recipe and actually made that soup for her, and she raved about it and everything. So it was really nice to have that at the wedding, and I think everybody really loved it. And then my other favorite thing was the donut flambe, and of course the cake. So dessert central, but I know a couple of things that were most talked about and that my husband loved the most as well was we had the fried chicken inspired by a homecoming recipe, and the Cobb salad that was inspired by the famous brown derby Cobb salad. And those were huge hits. And then after that, the next trip we went down, Justin was like, we have got to hit homecoming. I need more of that chicken.
What flavors did you choose for your wedding cake?
For the wedding cake, we tried so many tasting kits, so many of them. Ultimately, we ended up using themes to make our choices a little bit easier, and we loved all the flavors we chose. But our welcome party was very themed to like famous Disney snacks. We had popcorn, Mickey Rice Krispie treats, the Mickey Whoopie pies that kind of look like Mickey waffles and Mickey pretzels, all that kind of stuff. So with our cake flavor, we went with the churro cake with the regular buttercream to kind of represent the Disneyland churros. And that went over fantastic. Everyone loved it. And we took a good amount of the leftovers back with us, and we were eating cake from both the welcome party and the reception for a while. And it was just as good a few days later. And then for the reception, that was more of the Christmas feel. We did 3 different cake flavors, and we did them also themed. So we did a hot cocoa layer where it was chocolate cake with dark chocolate buttercream and mini marshmallows. And then we had our Grinch layer that was pistachio cake with pistachio buttercream with pistachio pieces in it. And then we had a nutcracker layer, we called it, which was our personal favorite with the almond cake and the almond crunch buttercream.
That's a clever idea to theme the flavors to Christmas.
It helped us narrow down because we had a few other flavors that we were considering, and we were like, how are we going to choose? And we're sitting there kind of thinking it through, and we were like, these could kind of fall under some themes. And so we made little signs and brought in with us to like put in front of the cake flavors and actually show that it was those like the Grinch layer and everything like that. So it was kind of fun. Oh, and I forgot there was one other food that was just truly delicious. So from the welcome party, the Mickey whoopie pies, and they look like those famous Mickey waffles, but they taste so good. Just truly, I think I ate my weight in Mickey whoopie pies and just crushed those. And then the other one was on my college program. I worked on Main Street East in Magic Kingdom. So that's the right-hand side of Magic Kingdom where the confectionery is. And back in my day, we made the Rice Krispie treats right there in the kitchen. And now they've converted over to where it's like a prepackaged one that are just a different taste. And it was really important to me. I was like, I really have to have the Mickey Rice Krispie treats there at the welcome party as part of our foods. And I requested, and they approved to do where they made the Mickey Rice Krispie treats there at Disney the way that they used to. And we even were able to have them packaged up so that we were able to have it put into our BEO that we could take any of the packaged leftovers back because they were packaged food at that point, even though they were actually fresh made at Disney, and they were truly delicious. They were a huge hit too.
That's such a great idea. Can you tell my listeners a little bit more about your Fantasmic welcome party? How did you choose Fantasmic, and did you add a ride mix-in?
We didn't do a ride mix-in, but we chose Fantasmic because we kind of looked at all the different options, and we really wanted to give our family and our friends that were making this journey as much of that experience of Disney as we could. And for us, like, that meant picking the top couple shows that if we can make sure that our family gets to see, taking advantage of that. So we did Fantasmic, and I was a little bit worried because looking at the space, and you look in like the patios are way at the back, and is it going to be a really good view, or are you going to feel like you're in the back of a theater? And honestly, it felt like amazing seating. You had a great view because they're kind of raised up, and it was just truly so much fun. And we had asked our friends and family to kind of dress in a Hollywood glam look to fit the style and to help us with that theming. And it was funny because we got off the Skyliner, and one of the cast members made a comment about how everybody is just so dressed up. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I guess a lot of people from my party must have taken the Skyliner. And then we walk into Hollywood Studios and we realize it's Dapper Day.
Oh.
And so everyone is decked out hard in the park in a very similar style. So it was just really cool because it was like, it felt like everything was just falling into place and looking amazing. And our group was being escorted down to Fantasmic, and someone even hollered out, "Look, it's a Dapper Day parade." So it was really awesome to be there and to get to show our family and friends the Fantasmic show with some of our favorite snacks and treats, and sending them back with cake at the end of the night too, to make sure that they were on a good sugar high like everybody should be when they're at Disney. One of the things that I felt like was really important with Fantasmic, and even with the cocktail hours and fireworks viewing, I don't remember the percent, but they typically will plan for a certain percent of the tables to be sitting versus standing. And for me, like I know my family and I know my friends, there's a couple that may like to stand, but for the most part, most of them would want to sit. And there's nothing worse than being in heels and looking around and going, oh, are there enough seats? Oh man, I'm going to have to stand it out in the heels, or, feeling like, can I sit, or does someone else really need to sit? So I pushed and asked for 100% seating at all of my events. And I think people were very appreciative. I think there was one or two tall tables that were used at like the cocktail hour and at the welcome party. But I really felt like for the most part, people enjoyed being able to sit and enjoy their food and enjoy the show more, because they weren't dying in their shoes or wanting to sit but not wanting to like fight for a chair. But yeah, our welcome party was it was so much fun. And Claire and Rob, again, with the photos that they did, were just fantastic. And it was so much fun, and they made it fun. And it was great.
That's a really great tip. And I loved the Sorcerer Mickey hat-shaped cake that you had. Can you talk a little bit about how you pulled that off?
Yeah, so we went back and forth so many times on if we were going to do a cake at the welcome party or not. And ultimately, we were like, we absolutely love Disney cake. It is so good. And if we have a ton of it, then we have a ton of it. And so we decided to go for it. And then we were struggling to come up with an idea and a theme. And I told my husband, like, this is, your groom's cake, right? So if there's something that you really want, let's make it happen. And it might have been his idea, or we came up with together to do it kind of themed to fit the night. So we met with the bakery, probably the third or fourth time we met with the bakery, because we're like, we're going to add another one. So we met with them and kind of talked through, and they gave us a couple ideas, and ultimately decided to kind of theme it after the show. So it's got like the bubbles and the little flames and then the hat. And we gave them a couple very light ideas and just told them to run with it and make it awesome. And it was so cool looking. We absolutely loved it.
That's fantastic. So out of all of this, what ended up being your favorite memory of your wedding day?
I'm not sure that I have a single favorite. There were so many things that were so special, from finally getting to marry my best friend, to sharing Disney Christmas with the most important people in our lives, to the little ones pointing me out as I'm walking through the lobby at any of the different, at the Riviera, at the Grand, and pointing at me and saying, look, there's a princess, and everyone waving as we went by in the carriage, to the downpour that only happened during our ceremony. And coming out, the ground was wet, but the rain had pretty much completely stopped. And there was this massive rainbow out at Picture Point after our ceremony. Or maybe even the memory of, as we were cutting our cake, our son was running circles around us, smacking our butts, making everyone laugh really hard, and then yelling at us, saying, no, 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 when they told us to kiss. There were so many magical moments. It makes you all warm and fuzzy to think back on.
So when you were planning, what were some of the most important aspects of the event where you focused your attention or your budget?
The two big things for us was really incorporating Disney and incorporating Christmas into our wedding. So from the Disney side, having our welcome party reflect some of our favorite Disney entertainment and snacks, to small hidden Mickeys in the bouquets, getting to ride in the carriage, having Mickey Christmas bubble wands as we came out that actually somehow, instead of looking like bubbles, truly ended up looking like snow. And even our son carrying a Stitch stuffed animal in a tuxedo down the aisle. So really wanted to feel the touches of Disney through the whole thing. And then from the Christmas side, we wanted to incorporate as much of the Christmas decor as possible and really let it shine through. So we had a lot of that really showed up well in the Grand Floridian and at the Rotunda. So that's stuff that was just there already. And then when we chose our wedding colors, we went with the more red and silver look. But then ultimately we're like, we really want it to feel like Christmas. So we added a little bit of dark green for the maid of honor and the flower girls to give the full Christmas feel. And then the mini Christmas trees lining the aisle in the wedding pavilion, and for the centerpieces. And I was maybe a little bit extra and brought a Christmas tree for the room for the girls to get ready in, and another Christmas tree for the guys' room for them to get ready in. Kind of can't help but wonder what the bellhop must have been thinking as he was, helping my family bring out full-size Christmas trees to our hotel room. And even using like the bridal party gifts, we wrapped them up as Christmas presents and laid them all underneath the tree so that when we had the opportunity to give them their gifts, we were pulling their gifts from underneath the Christmas tree.
That's amazing. Were there any aspects that were less important where you saved your money or just your effort?
Yeah, so a couple of the things that we really didn't want to spend extra on and didn't want to spend so much time trying to figure out were what to put on the tables for the welcome party and for the cocktail hour. So with them being such short events, and with the welcome party and the cocktail hour both having smaller tables, we wanted to keep it really simple. So we ended up going with just like a single tea light and Mickey confetti on the tables, which I didn't realize Mickey confetti was an option. And that also like hit home for the college program because we used to be able to get little packets of pixie dust very rarely, but we would get them as we worked. And so getting to have Mickey confetti on the table was like having the Mickey like pixie dust everywhere. And it was also one of the really affordable options, was just to sprinkle a little of the confetti on each table and a tea light. And then for the cocktail hour, we did very similar with the Mickey confetti. And rather than doing expensive floral or anything, we picked up some cheap vases and some fresh red roses and just brought in to do a single red rose on each one of the tables on the inside during our cocktail hour at Whitehall. So that was kind of one of our cost savings, and also a little bit of a nod to our engagement. We were actually engaged at the Enchanted Rose at the Grand Floridian. So having the rose was kind of the touch to that, as well as a way to help us save on some costs.
Got it. Okay. How did you decide to use Whitehall for your cocktail hour instead of the fireworks show at Italy Isola?
We decided to do Whitehall because we didn't want to wait until such a late start time. So if we had moved the cocktail hour to Italy, we would have had to start our cocktail hour at like 7 o'clock at night. And that just wasn't something that we felt our family would be up for. We also had sent out in our invitations and our RSVPs, we had asked people how late do they plan on staying out to party, and kind of got an idea from there on how late we wanted to go. And with most people wanting to probably call it a day by 11 or midnight, it just didn't make sense for us to wait that long to start. So they said for our group size, we didn't have an indoor location in case of rain until 7 o'clock. So we couldn't start that cocktail hour until that late. So we decided to do Whitehall for our cocktail hour so that we could get things started. So when we went from the cocktail hour to the Rotunda, we were able to just go right in and do our first dance and then start our dinner so that we could go out to the fireworks as soon as dinner was done. And in December, I think it's the norm, the fireworks didn't actually start till 9:30 versus the 9 o'clock that it is most of the year. So it gave us that little bit of extra time that we were able to make sure we would be done with dinner so that we could head out to those fireworks.
Got it. Okay, that's a great idea. Now, did anything go wrong or just not turn out like you expected?
Yeah, so it's actually a little bit funny, but with having not as many people as we had thought were going to show up to the wedding, luckily we knew before the day of, so we were able to adjust, but it actually put us hitting below our food and beverage minimum. So we had to find a way to spend more money. So in an attempt to spend more money and having to hit in the food and beverage categories, we decided to add on a couple things. So we added on the champagne tower that we had kind of been on the fence on, and some of the things that I had seen online were a lot of people disappointed with it and with it being so low and it was like 2 layers and stuff. So we made a very specific request to add the champagne tower, but have it at least, I think it was 4 tiers high. And I think this also helped with it too, was we picked a red sparkling wine to pour, which was a dangerous move in a white gown, but I bought a bottle of it at home before the wedding to just test how bad it would be on a white napkin in case it spilled it all on the dress. But we did the champagne tower, and I thought that was a lot of fun, and you could really see it because we had the red sparkling wine in there. Um, so for me and Justin, like we thought that was a lot of fun, and I know that our guests loved the taste of it. Just had one of my bridesmaids over recently, and I offered her a glass of wine, and she was like, "Oh, I'm good." And then she saw that it was the wine from the wedding. She's like, "Oh wait, no, nope, I'll take some of that," because I found out after she was going around and seeing if any of the family member needed refills so that she could get a little bit of the extra because it was so good. And I don't blame her. That's like our go-to wine now, and it's like our wine. So when we have game nights or anything, we'll always crack one of those open. And then the other thing that we ended up adding to the wedding to help hit at that minimum was the donut flambe station. And during the tasting, I wasn't overly impressed with it. I didn't feel like it was something I had to have at my wedding. And we were going to pass on the late night snack altogether. And then when we found out we had the budget for it and we had to spend it on something, we decided that that would be cool. So we kind of added it and didn't have high expectations for it. And then all of a sudden, someone came over and pointed it out to us that it was going. And you looked over and you could see these massive flames, and it looked amazing. And on top of that, it tasted amazing. And I felt like it was completely different from the tasting, and it was just so much better and truly amazing. It was so cool to see. People were raving about it. A couple people missed it apparently, and they were being given quite the hard time by their family members. Like, how in the world did you miss that? So, but it was cool because we were really stressed about what in the world are we going to spend this extra money on to get to our minimums. And we don't want to just lose the money, not get anything. And so getting to kind of pick something to add on last minute was fun. And it ended up both being things that were just really cool.
Wonderful. Was there anything that seemed like a big deal beforehand or you were worried about, and then it turned out not to be a big deal?
In a way, so the welcome bags, I loved everything that we took the time to add to our bags, but it ended up being a lot of prep time and then trying to get them to all of our guests. And it took so much time away from what people wanted to be doing and should have been able to relax and enjoy doing, that there's a part of me that regrets doing it or regrets how we did it. Maybe we should have just paid the extra fee to have them at the front desks. But I felt like a lot of people ended up not getting them, and a lot of effort was made to put them together, and a lot of people helped with all of the effort behind it. So I felt like it was going to be this really awesome, big deal to have it, and then it turned out that a lot of people didn't get them, and just I would have done that a little bit different. I'm not quite sure how, but wish we had gone after that one a little bit different.
Interesting. Okay. And is there anything else you would have done differently knowing what you know now?
Yes. I absolutely wish I had gotten a day of coordinator. So many things they were little things, but there were so many things that were forgotten or rushed or people running around to try and make happen that I think could have really been avoided by having a day of coordinator. And I wish I'd had the time to do a little bit more research on one of my vendors and just more time. Our lives are beyond the definition of crazy, and finding time to do some of the things. Well, I had a lot of people trying to help me. I've got to have some starting point for them to use, and that just became really hard too. So I wish at minimum that I had a day of coordinator, and then that I'd had more time to do a little bit more research on some things. One of the other things that I wish I'd had more time for and had a better idea around was the park shoots. So we did a park shoot in each park, and we did Hollywood Studios the morning before our welcome party because we honestly we had run out of time for us to do our Hollywood Studios shoot. So it ended up that if we wanted to do it, we wanted to do it at Christmas, we had to do it the morning of our welcome party. And I was dead set against him seeing me in the dress before the wedding. And so we decided that Hollywood Studios fit the vibe of what we were wearing to the welcome party. So we did it in kind of our old Hollywood outfits with the red dress and the black, suit. And we did all of that, but then we didn't have the time and didn't take the time to really save and ask for the photos we wanted. So while we got some really awesome photos, there were some that in my head I had seen, but then we were not allowed to get because we had seen a lot where people were further in the lobby of the Tower of Terror. And we thought, oh, okay, cool, we can go over there and do those. But then it turned out that if we had wanted that, we would have needed to request permission beforehand to make sure that we could go further in. And so we weren't able to get that because we didn't send them example photos and find out that we needed to ask that question. So it was kind of just following blindly without having many of our own ideas. And then you take that one and you compare to our last photo shoot we did, which we actually went back. So we got married December 3rd, and then we went back late May to do our last photo shoot because we really wanted to do Epcot during Flower and Garden Festival. And we got there earlier in the week, and we were there for just a general trip, and then we ended it with our photos. And we went to Epcot beforehand, and we walked the areas, and we got some ideas for the photos we wanted. So when we went into that photo shoot, maybe because the stress of the wedding week was off as well, and we were a bit more well rested, but we were able to relax a lot more, and we could go with the flow because we had sent some ideas, but we knew in our mind of certain shots that we wanted to make sure we got. So I would really, really recommend not just looking at photos, but saving them and sending them over, especially if there's anything that you're looking to do that's outside of the regular guest areas. So like in Canada, in the garden area there, we were able to go over in an area that isn't a normal guest area. And I had sent a picture before and said like, hey, we'd really like to go over here to do a photo. Can we make sure we can do that? And then it wasn't a problem. So I wish we had had that relaxed feeling and known a little bit more what we wanted for those park shoots in the beginning in December.
I see. Okay, great. Do you have any other tips or advice for future Disney couples?
I would say join a lot of Facebook groups and ask a lot of questions. There's so many people out there that just really want to help and share their experiences. And there's so many options for Disney weddings that they can't hand you a book that has every single option. If they did, it would be huge. There's so many things that we don't know about. I didn't know that it was an option to have my bouquet sprayed with glitter. Because if I had, I would have asked for that. And so we found out because they had kind of pixie dusted and sprayed my maid of honor's bouquet with glitter. But then mine didn't have it. So I was like, I really want that. And so we were able to make it happen like after the ceremony, but before the rest of the photos and stuff like that. It's like we were able to do that. But like the Mickey confetti, I think was just mentioned on one of the floral calls as an option. And like I all day long, I just want Mickey confetti for my house. But I think there's so many things out there that people maybe had exposure to, but not a whole list of. So if you have questions, put them out there. The communities that are out there really love sharing their experiences, love to help and help you brainstorm things and anything that we can do to help support each other. Join all the groups, listen to everything, take it all in, ask so many questions, find your people. There's a few people that since we got married last year, I've connected with a couple people that are planning to do things very similarly, and they're asking a whole bunch of questions, and I love it because I get to kind of relive my wedding by sharing these experiences and sharing the advice and the different things that I learned. We're here for you, and we want to see you have your most amazing magical day too.
That's great advice. Well, Tiffany, I think you've offered a lot of great tips and advice for anyone who's interested in getting married or having a vow renewal at Walt Disney World, and I appreciate your taking the time.
Thank you so much.
That's our show for today. I'm your host, Carrie Hayward, inviting you to join me again next week for another episode of the Disney Wedding Podcast. Past shows and tons of photos for each episode are available on my website, DisneyWeddingPodcast.com, or listen in your favorite podcast app. And for instant answers to all your Walt Disney World wedding questions, check out Carrie Hayward's Fairy Tale Weddings Guide, available as an interactive ebook with continual free updates at fairytaleweddingsguide.com.